England's third largest city, Manchester, has a vibrant contemporary culture and a fascinating history. Today, it's a thoroughly modern place with a lively, compact downtown filled with shops, restaurants, bars, pedestrian zones, and plazas, all within 1/2 square mile. Very easy to walk around. We'll be showing you a lot of this pedestrian zone and the other fascinating attractions of this wonderful city, including the canals that played a big role in connecting Manchester's production of cotton fabric with the world when they practically invented the industrial age, with a history dating back to the Middle Ages and ancient Romans who built a fortress here, still visible. At the end of the video, we're going to a big street party celebrating a major football victory. Manchester is a modern, busy city with a high quality of life, while maintaining English traditions. Here are the main neighborhoods that we'll be visiting during the program on an organized walking tour that will take you from one end to the other, beginning in the most enjoyable part of the town center in a vast pedestrian zone, then over to Piccadilly Gardens. King Street is at the southern edge of this pedestrian area, lined with shops and restaurants. Gale's Bakery has a line out front most of the day, and the reward is worth waiting for, with stacks of sourdough behind the counter and trays of pastries. This section is closed to all motor vehicle traffic, enabling space for these outdoor restaurants. Most of the buildings along King Street were originally built for some other function entirely, and many of them retain their original authentic facades and stone doorways, sometimes decorated with elaborate carvings. There are many practical shops for the locals, along with high-end retail. King connects with Cross Street, open to traffic, and then leads back to the pedestrian zone at St. Anne's Square. It's one of the loveliest spaces in town and named after the church along its south edge.
This church was built in 1712, but the city then grew up around the church.
It did?
Of course.
So is this about the center of the city?
It is, yeah. And so we're very fortunate to be here.
Inside, they're having a fundraising sale with baked goods and a variety of items, with Georgian-style architecture all around. St. Anne's Square in front is wider than the other pedestrian streets in the neighborhood and is a popular gathering spot for the locals, especially on a sunny weekend in May, with the Flower Festival being held. The giant chessboard is laid out in front of a tall bronze statue that's a memorial to the Boer War, with a busker providing soothing music in the background. Just beyond here, the square narrows and changes names to Exchange Street, and a block later becomes New Cathedral Street, another pedestrian area. Today there was a wine bar pop-up in an old VW van. A view along Market Street towards the Arndale shopping center we'll get to in a few minutes. New Cathedral Street is one of the busiest pedestrian blocks in the city, with some very modern large stores along it. Tragically, this part of the city center was blown up by a massive bomb set by the IRA in 1996 that flattened several blocks here, but fortunately did not kill anybody. This reconstruction was finished within about 5 years. Now it has become a joyful and festive place with Exchange Square at the center, the very heart of the city. There are 2 traditional pubs here with outdoor dining, including Sinclair's Oyster Bar on the right, founded originally in 1720, and the Old Wellington from 1552, oldest commercial building in the city center. In contrast, we have one of the newest buildings in this center with Selfridge's department store. Part of the large Arndale shopping complex will be going inside soon. This space is an ideal public gathering place with endless benches to sit on shops and restaurants all around, and public transit running through. The tram line was extended to here in 1995 and really enhanced the accessibility and lively atmosphere of the place, creating a delightful urban environment. The plaza was built in 1998 with a design linking upper and lower levels with a cascade of stone ramps and benches gently sloping down. This provides a walking route as well as amphitheater seating. This friendly plan of open space with seats surrounded by shops attracts hundreds of people throughout the day, making it the default meeting place of central Manchester. There is no admission charge, nothing to buy, no assigned use, so on a warm afternoon the steps fill with people who are not there for any organized reason. Office workers eating lunch, families watching children run through the fountains that come straight out of the paving with no basin around them. It's my favorite part of the entire city. Just next to Exchange Square you'll find Cathedral Gardens and Manchester Cathedral, probably the most important building in town. The cathedral is older than everything around it. There has been a church on this ground since Saxon times. The present building went up mostly in the 15th century, and it has the widest nave of any cathedral in England. Back to Exchange Square and its many restaurants, including Wagamama, part of that popular English chain of Asian restaurants. There is a wide variety of eateries inside the Corn Exchange, a building constructed in 1903 where merchants dealt in grain and produce for the mills and markets of the area. Step inside where you'll see a large glass dome towering over an enormous room with 2 levels of arcaded galleries hosting various restaurants, with several hundred people enjoying excellent food in a spectacular setting. This is not a food court in the usual sense. Around the edge of the floor are 14 full-service restaurants, each with its own kitchen and style of cuisine. Of course, many people just come for a drink, conversation, and socializing. I had lunch at Vapiano and was very impressed by this high-quality, fast food Italian style, offering pizza and fresh pasta made at the open kitchen. My fresh fettuccine was delicious, and they have amazingly fast service. To select your meal, use their tablet or your own mobile, choose your dish, pay for it, and the order goes straight to the kitchen.
We're a quick service restaurant. You just scan the QR code, order and pay, and that's it, job done. From boiled to the dish is probably about 3 minutes. But they can be in and out in like less than half an hour or so.
And when you're done eating, you leave.
You leave, that's it.
The Corn Exchange building also has a hotel inside, with 114 apartments in the upper floors. When you're done eating, you can walk across the square and into England's largest center city shopping mall, Manchester Arndale, containing over 200 stores. The mall has 3 levels with escalators crossing the open wells and a stream of shoppers on all of them. Selfridges and Marks & Spencer are the 2 anchors, England's 2 primary department store chains, and many more shops with something for everyone. It's so large it occupies several city blocks, surrounded by Corporation, High, and Market streets. The aerial view from Google Earth shows how close together these 3 main destinations are: the Cathedral, Corn Exchange, and Arndale Center. Continuing now along Corporation Street. It's quite busy with trams, pedestrians, and buses going by. The glass pedestrian bridge overhead connects the 2 parts of Arndale Center. Nearby Church Street has some downtown atmosphere with brick buildings and independent shops. High Street on the other side of Arndale Mall has a tram running through it, but no stop here. It's a slightly scruffy, less interesting street with a parking lot along one side and not many shops. It continues to the northern quarter at one end, and connects with Market Street on the south, which is our next destination. Market Street is the most popular place to shop in the city, as you can see from these people lined up outside a shoe store to get the latest model. The pedestrian section of Market Street begins here from Cross Street and extends for about 500 meters right through the center of downtown, starting out as an underpass going beneath the Arndale shopping mall, which takes advantage of that gallery space with some pop-up shopping kiosks selling a variety of popular items. We've just been at Arndale Center and Exchange Square, now heading down Market Street to Piccadilly Gardens. An escalator from the mall delivers you right into Market Street. It's a great place for people watching, strolling, sitting on a bench, of course shopping, lounging around and relaxing, and grab a bite to eat. A few side malls branch off, where I saw some young ladies in a circle dancing with headphones on. Possible hen party or silent disco walking through town with rhythm. Walking here is so pleasant because the cars are gone. Market Street was closed to traffic in 1981, and nothing moves along it now except people. This has been the commercial spine of Manchester for about 1,000 years, where people come to buy things, relax, and be entertained.
For all the times you screwed us over, let it play on and on and on. It's just another breakup song, right? But I'll do anything to get you.
Continuing a few blocks further along this promenade, we reach the end of Market Street with more shops and a busy tram stop with tracks in both directions. Very convenient to use right at street level, just step in and go. This branch of the tram system opened in 1992 and expanded in 1998 with this new station. The tram system here is quite extensive with about 60 miles of track and 99 stops along several lines with big plans for expansion. The first trams here were in 1877 with horse-drawn carriages, typical of the times. Electric traction took over from 1901, and by 1930 the network had grown into the third largest in the United Kingdom. But the entire tram system was shut down in 1949 and did not resume until 1992 when a new line was created. Trains running down the sidewalk might seem dangerous, but it mixes well with pedestrians, as a transit worker explained to us.
The tram always lets them know when it's coming, so it'll make a toot noise, and it'll toot like people are walking on this now. When a tram's coming, it'll sound his horn, and people will know to move away from the tracks.
Yeah, so it's safe.
Safe, yeah.
And the service is pretty frequent?
Yes, every 12 minutes.
Every 12 minutes. So before there was automobiles on these roads?
It's very reliable most of the time. It's very cheap. So we have family tickets that cost £5.20 for a family to travel around all day. They have elderly passes. They can go to the travel shop. It costs them £10 for 1 year.
The system is very easy to use for a visitor. You don't even need a ticket. You just tap in and tap out at the platform ticket machine with credit card or Apple Pay, and the price for all day throughout the center is just over £5. Trams converge here from several directions with arrivals every few minutes, where the section running along the street meets the crowds. The mayor did such a good job expanding the transportation system, he's become Prime Minister Burnham. Another one of the highlights of Manchester is Piccadilly Gardens, right next to that Market Street tram stop. They have a street food village with a row of timber kiosks serving up a big variety of foods with quick service, good quality, and low prices. Every counter cooks in the open. Salt and pepper chicken comes off a flat-top griddle. Along the row are Philadelphia cheesesteaks, loaded fries, burgers, and pulled pork. Have a look around and you'll find some tasty pastries, or a hot table with beans, rice, and mushrooms. Afro-Caribbean. a Turkish grill with doner kebab, some Asian food. Then you'll probably find some entertainment in the garden. This park is the largest open space in the city center, where you can find a place to sit down and enjoy your meal or stand up and dance. On rare occasions, there might be a scheduled event here at Piccadilly Gardens, but for the most part, it's all spontaneous, just people having fun, unscheduled buskers, flag dancers, drummers, preachers, and lots of people just lounging around. This statue depicts motherhood as part of a memorial to Queen Victoria, erected the year she died in 1901. We are passing through Piccadilly Gardens and walking along a street of the same name on our way into the northern quarter, a very old part of town. Piccadilly has some nice shops and interesting buildings along it, including the old Piccadilly Tavern. When we get around the corner and make our way a couple blocks over to Dale Street, we have entered a completely different part of town, the northern quarter. Oldham Street runs through the middle of it, and back in the 19th century, it was the main shopping street in Manchester, lined with department stores and small shops. Evelyn's Cafe and Bar is one of the best restaurants in the neighborhood, in a long room with a bar down one side, serving a veg-friendly entree of roasted cauliflower, along with many other items, including grilled octopus. This district was built for textile warehouses, small manufacturers, and food distribution, with rows of red brick buildings 4 and 5 stories high, with wide windows to bring in as much daylight as possible. They were built as practical structures and have survived with that industrial style that looks very attractive to our modern eyes. On High Street, the long arcaded front with the iron gates is what remains of Smithfield Market, the wholesale market that supplied Manchester with fish, fruit, vegetables, poultry, and flowers, until the trade moved out to a new site in the early 1970s. The northern quarter had been doing very well until the 1970s, when Arndale Center was built, leading to a revitalization of that part of town, as we've seen at Market Street and King Street. So of course there has been a revitalization and rejuvenation, a rebirth of this neighborhood. The artists have come in, small independent boutiques, the hip restaurants, the trendy places. The low rent has fostered a whole new quality of life here. Edge Street has reclaimed the road space, putting tables right in the middle for outdoor restaurants that really come to life in the evening. There are still scruffy places like Whittle Street, so picturesque it has been used in several movies. Along Swan Street, the new towers are going up quickly, apartment blocks in brick-colored cladding rising directly behind the Victorian roofline. The broad boulevard of great encotes marks the boundary of Northern Quarter. Walk around long enough and you might run into a couple of friendly ladies from Liverpool serenading you with a hometown song.
So ferry cross the Mersey, 'cause this land's the place I love, and here I'll stay.
I love it. That's so beautiful. Thank you, ladies. That completes our Northern Quarter adventure. Now we're continuing along Piccadilly, enjoying some more of these beautiful old buildings, some former warehouses and ordinary shops, including a view down to Manchester Piccadilly, the main railway station, with a couple of elaborate brick towers. If you're interested in some refreshments, or just need to take a break of some kind, step into the Malmaison Hotel with a beautiful lobby and restaurant. A tram takes us along Mosley Street, passing a few modern buildings, to St. Peter's Square, the busiest tram intersection where several lines on the network converge. The Manchester Art Gallery was designed by Charles Barry, the same architect who built the Houses of Parliament, showing pre-Raphaelites, Turner, Gainsborough, and a modern collection. The Portico Library nearby opened in 1806 and is still a working library, with a pub on the ground floor. The Central Library was finished in 1934, modeled on the Pantheon in Rome, a round drum, a dome, and Corinthian column portico. Peter Street runs west from here, wide and lined with Victorian frontages under blue and white awnings, with theaters, bars, and hotels along its length. The Midland Hotel is where Henry Royce met Charles Rolls, which led to the production of the Rolls-Royce. And Chopin played one of his final concerts on this block, arriving at one of the major intersections of the city, where Peter Street crosses Deansgate, the most important commercial street in the city. We'll come back here in several minutes for a closer look, entering some major buildings and including a football victory parade. But first, we continue our walking tour, heading into the quiet refuge of St. John's Gardens. It's an oasis of rose beds, green lawns, hedges, gravel paths, palms in the borders, and benches. With a slight drizzle, there's hardly anybody else here. It's a slightly out-of-the-way neighborhood of ordinary streets and a plain pub, but there is one special attraction. It's the Museum of Science and Industry, where we take a very quick look. Admission is free, where you'll see some early motor cars, industrial machines from mid-19th century, a gallery on Manchester's role in computing, and a whole floor of experiments built for children to pull, spin, and press. The building had been the Liverpool and Manchester Railway Station, from which the world's first passenger train departed in 1830 on its way to Liverpool, with a replica of that steam engine called Stephenson's rocket on display. Some much older history can be seen a few blocks away, where you can see the remains of an ancient fortress built by the Romans, who established the first city here in the year 79, occupied for about 3 centuries. That heritage of trains is still very much alive here in Manchester, which is part of the excellent UK system of railroads. And here we have 2 viaducts with 2 separate train lines, and the modern skyscraper buildings of Manchester rising behind them. This brings us to another fascinating chapter of the city's industrial history, with an amazing network of canals that were very important for shipping goods in the early mid-19th century. And now it's the scenic neighborhood called Castlefields, very much worth visiting. This is part of Castlefield Basin, which is not just one pool, but a set of watery arms and wharves that are cut for different purposes. This part is especially charming, with the Castlefield Hotel and the Y Club in a converted warehouse, and a terrace cafe with a view out over the basin and the railroad viaducts. Cruising in a canal boat is very popular in England. You can rent one, you don't need any experience or license. Many people own their own boat and live on it. Others are just in town for a day visiting and then departing. Living on a narrow boat has become a genuine option in a city with expensive housing, and there is a whole community of it here. There are plans to create a Highline type park on one of the viaducts. You can walk right under the viaducts or walk up some internal steps through them and then come out on the other side to another scenic part of the city with more of these same canals. You could walk over the Merchant's Bridge put up in 1995 as part of the restoration of this whole area. That leads over to a waterfront neighborhood with a few restaurants, and there's a walking path along another canal basin. Here's a view of the start of the Rochdale Canal, opened in 1804 and cut for 30 miles through the hills of Yorkshire. The canal is still functioning. Here you see the water gate at that first lock, and the fishing must be pretty good here. The Canal Basin is another fascinating part of Manchester, and it really speaks to the history of the city, which is the first place to have really functioning canals in England. And this boat's coming into the lock. Bringing your boat through the canal involves quite a bit of manual work. As you'll see, the gates to the lock have to be cranked open by hand. Some English canals have motorized gates, which makes it a lot easier, but not here. Marvelous view of the canal and 2 trains on viaduct, a reflection of the transportation history of this area. Hand crank the gates and open them up to bring the boat through. A nice place to enhance your appreciation of this beautiful site is the cafe at Catalan Square. Look up and you'll get a view of the 4 blue glass towers of Deansgate Square. They were the tallest buildings in Britain outside London when they were finished. Now Manchester is going even higher, as we'll see in a moment. An easy walk on the canal towpath for a couple hundred meters brings us right towards the city center, with a train coming by every couple of minutes. Another view of downtown with Castlefield Basin and Park in the foreground. The brick train station is Deansgate Castlefield, where the railway and the tram meet, with a walkway crossing over the road between them. From here, the route continues into the most modern part of the city called Spinningfields, an amazing collection of new skyscrapers. There is a building boom going on in this part of town. 10 years ago, the city had just 4 buildings over 100 meters tall. Now it has 26 of them. And if every approved building scheme is approved, it will pass Paris and Frankfurt with more than 200 towers over 50 meters. An aerial view from Google Earth shows the large number of new buildings. That pace of development continues along the other side of the River Irwell, which has also included development of a very pleasant riverfront walkway, a strip of urban park in the city. An architectural landmark here is Trinity Bridge that crosses the river with a single white pylon leaning back at 60 degrees with cable stays fanning out in 2 cross sweeps. Opened in 1995 to help lure people over to this side of the river to the new developments going up, enhanced by an expansive riverfront plaza. The bridge was designed by famous architect Santiago Calatrava. It was his first structure completed in the United Kingdom. That takes us back over to Parsonage Gardens. For a densely built city, Manchester has kept a surprising number of these quiet green corners tucked in behind the main streets. A few blocks away, we arrive at the People's History Museum and learned about the important exhibits in a conversation at the visitor desk.
And we are the National Museum of Democracy. And the museum tells the story of the fight for the vote in this country from the 1700s onwards, the fight for workers' rights, trade union rights, the history of the trade union movement, and the fight for social equity and justice for all sections of the community. And we have a unique collection of banners. We have one of the largest collections of banners, political banners and trade union banners in the world. Got nearly 500 of those. There was a huge pro-democracy protest that took place in Manchester 200 years ago in 1819. It became known as the Peterloo Massacre. About 18 people were killed and many hundreds wounded in the rioting or fighting that took place.
And so the workers united and organized because they had been living under factory conditions, oppressive conditions.
That's right, yes. But what happened as the Industrial Revolution unfolded, Manchester became the first modern industrial city and became a magnet for migrants from all around the British Isles, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, different parts of England. As people came together, they started to organise and fighting for their rights. So it's a unique collection, so do come and visit us. We don't charge for entry.
After those history lessons, we step into the living history of the city on the main commercial street where it all happened, Deansgate, lined with old brick buildings that were important factories and warehouses during that industrial age. Many of the historic buildings are preserved with modernized interiors and contemporary shops and restaurants, with a futuristic city of mirror glass skyscrapers rising behind it. A Google view dramatically illustrates the scale of these giant new buildings. The Deansgate Hilton occupies the lower floors of the Beetham Tower that opened in 2006 as the tallest building in the UK outside of London. The view along this street, with the brick in the foreground and glass above it, is the clearest picture of the radical transformation that has been happening here in recent decades. The Great Northern Railway's goods depot occupies a city block and was a railway station for freight, where the railway, canal, and road all met, so freight could be transferred between them under one roof, with the trains coming right inside the building. It was built in the 1890s by about 800 workers using 25 million bricks. Now it's a leisure and recreation complex built in the 1990s. It's become an indoor playground with wild neon lighting and graphics and a wide variety of entertainment. There are pool tables, darts, shuffleboard, bowling lanes, arcade machines, ping pong, basketball. You can take a break for refreshments at the snack bar and then go upstairs for more fun. Family entertainment centers like this have become extremely popular in British cities. They found out that people will come out and stay if there is something to do beyond eating and drinking, and the growth has been remarkable. In 2018, there were 11 venues in the country combining several activities. There are now well over 80. They give people a good reason to get out of the house. There are several restaurants and bars around it, and you're in the middle of the city with many other dining choices. Back on Deansgate and confronting another ultra-modern building with a controversial architectural style, including diagonal glazing of diamond-patterned windows. A stark contrast with the neo-Gothic building next door, an old structure with a surprising function. The John Rylands Library in Manchester looks more like a cathedral, but it's a cathedral of knowledge with a large collection of rare books. The reading room has 2 levels of arcades with reading rooms along them that look like side chapels. It's part of the University of Manchester, and you'll often see students at work, not using rare books, but their modern laptops. Pointed arches are found throughout in that neo-Gothic style, with impressive stained glass windows on the upper level. Although it looks 900 years old, it was built in the 1890s. Some University of Manchester students from China were taking pictures to celebrate their upcoming graduation. You enjoyed the school, Manchester?
Yeah.
Wow, the school is so great. We are about to graduate this year, and I'm really gonna miss here.
The facade is red Cumbrian sandstone in decorated Gothic, designed to read like the gatehouse of a monastery, with octagonal lanterns above. Continuing on Deansgate, there's a small square opposite with a bronze Chopin sitting at a piano, the largest statue of him outside his native Poland. The lady is French novelist George Sand, who was his companion for 9 years. Some of the modern buildings are designed with respect to blend in with the historical character of the older buildings. Deansgate is the longest street in the center, stretching for 2 miles. This middle stretch is the grandest. Long Victorian blocks in sandstone and blackened brick run for hundreds of yards. Arcaded windows above, corner turrets, the whole thing built for warehouses and offices when cotton was paying the bills. The raw cotton came from the American South, picked by enslaved people, shipped into Liverpool and carried the 30 miles here by canal and then by rail. Lancashire spun it and wove it, and the finished cloth came back into the city to be inspected, measured, folded, and packed in warehouses like these. Then it went out again to the whole world. That completes our in-depth story about Manchester as we kick back at the Moon Underwater, about the largest pub in town. You know, Manchester is a football-crazy city, and something special happened when I was there. Now I can reveal to you the true nature of the city, beyond all that history and architecture and tour guide stuff. Here are the Mancunians at their happiest, in ecstasy, celebrating a major victory. Manchester has two of the best teams in the Premier Football League of England, and they faced each other for the Premier League Championship, a match between Manchester United and Manchester City. And the victor was Manchester City. They had a fantastic victory parade right through the heart of Manchester days later. Here we're going to show you the highlights of the parade, a visual and noise phenomenon for you without any further narration, so that you can enjoy the passionate celebration of the fans.
City, best in England of all. City, the best in England of all. We talk about Rory, can we talk about Rory?